Hey, Royal with Shipa, and today we're going to be talking about what does a one-line developer experience looks like. Yes, you heard that correctly. What does a one-line developer experience looks like? And so we'll be taking a look at running a few particular projects and platforms together. Here we're going to be leveraging Kubernetes, Shipa, Terraform, ArgoCD, and Crossplane. But actually, they all kind of meld together really excellently to provide you that one-line developer experience. And so here was what it actually looks like. So all you have to do, here is a Crossplane object of a Shipa application deploy object. And all you have to do is modify this particular image tag here. You might be updating a tag, you might be changing an image. Here, instead of Mr. Potato Head, I'm actually using WordPress. And then the logical architecture would be ArgoCD would be pointed to this particular YAML file. It could be a singular YAML file. And ArgoCD will actually enforce and deploy that particular file, which uses Shipa, which has wired to a downstream Kubernetes cluster to deploy that application. I know that's quite a mouthful, but basically what that leads to is that all your developers have to do is make a singular change in one line to get their applications out the door. So what does that look like? So Shipa has a few required objects that it needs. It requires a framework, which is your policies. It requires a cluster, that's the where you're going to be deploying or where Shipa is managing the policy. Also the application. This might make the most sense to your developers, like, hey, this is what we're going to be deploying, and this is a logical grouping of that. Going back to, hey, a sub-object of that deployment is an application deployment object, which is app deploy here, and all we're going to be is changing this right here. So let's actually go first, fire up Terraform, which is going to create the required objects before we can just submit this application deploy. Firing up Terraform, here we have a very simple example of a bootstrap Terraform that we have a more detailed example in a blog post, but this is basically what happens. We're going to be wiring the Terraform Shipa provider. We're going to be creating a framework. Also, we're going to be wiring a Kubernetes cluster to Shipa, that framework, and then we're going to be making a home for your applications, but not deploying it. When we execute that, all the necessary pieces actually come together. And lastly, now this is where it's kind of the demo magic will occur. All you have to do is change this particular image tag here to maybe something like WordPress. You can point Argo to that. So I actually have Argo set up here to a Get project that's in a private repository for myself. There's monitoring for that change, and the second that change actually occurs, you can either have Argo to monitor the Get repo. In my case, I have a manual sync, so I have to hit sync here. And that's it. Shipa will be off to the races deploying your application, and also this is what the final application looks like. I hope that makes sense. Follow along the blog post for more detailed instructions, and cheers. Until next time, Ravi.